Has anyone ever told you that life after 80 can come with quiet surprises? Some tender, some tough. You spend decades building your life, learning how to move through the world with confidence, gathering experience, wisdom, and resilience. And yet, when you finally arrive at this milestone, you might begin to feel like the ground has shifted beneath your feet in ways no one truly prepared you for. These changes don't always come in the form of medical diagnoses or physical aches, although those exist too. What often catches people off guard are the subtle emotional shifts, the transformations in how you relate to others, how others relate to you, and how your own sense of identity begins to quietly evolve. You might notice that your days feel longer, not because of boredom, but because the rhythm of your life has slowed, and you're now more aware of the space between moments. Or you may catch yourself recalling a memory not out of nostalgia, but to remind yourself of who you've been and who you still are. There is something deeply powerful about noticing these changes with clarity instead of brushing them aside. They aren't always dramatic or painful. Sometimes they're simply quiet. A phone that doesn't ring as often. A chair you sit in longer. A plan you used to jump into without thinking now requires careful pacing. At this stage, it's not about decline, it's about awareness. You begin to see life differently. Time feels more precious, conversations more meaningful. Silence, once overlooked, becomes a companion. This video isn't here to make aging sound grim. Quite the opposite. We're here to gently name what many people experience, but few speak out loud, because there's real power in naming something, in calling it what it is. These changes aren't weaknesses, they're signals. Signals that you've lived long enough to know what matters, that your priorities have shifted from quantity to quality, that your energy, though different, is still yours to manage with intention. We'll walk through 5 quiet but profound realities that often emerge after 80. Some may sound familiar, others might open your eyes to something you felt but couldn't quite explain. Our goal is not to overwhelm but to illuminate, because when you understand what's happening emotionally, socially, and physically, you can move through it with grace rather than resistance. So take a breath. This isn't a warning, it's an invitation to step into this chapter, not with fear but with deeper understanding, and maybe, just maybe, a little more peace. Reality 1. When your social world quietly shrinks. As we grow older, we often think that the biggest changes will be physical. The slowing of our steps, the thinning of our hair, the occasional trip to the doctor that turns into a routine. But what catches many people off guard in their 80s isn't the physical at all. It's the slow, quiet shrinking of the social world around them. Not with a loud bang, but with a whisper. You may still hear from your children now and then. A neighbor might knock on the door, or an old friend might remember to send a holiday card. But the truth is, those once frequent connections start to feel less regular, less spontaneous, and sometimes less warm. You don't always realize it right away. It sneaks up on you. 1 week turns into 2 without a call. One missed lunch becomes a long stretch of silence. And it's not anyone's fault, really. People are busy. Your friends and family members have lives filled with work, responsibilities, and their own challenge. Some of them may move to other cities. Some may be dealing with health issues of their own. And others, well, they may simply not be around anymore. It's a hard truth, but the longer we live, the more we are left to live without the people who once filled our day. This isn't just about missing others, it's also about a shift in energy. What once felt effortless now feels fragile. Relationships that once thrived on shared routines begin to fade when those routines change. Perhaps your morning walking partner moved to assisted living, or the weekly dinner with friends just stopped happening one day without anyone realizing it. And so, the silence creeps in. But this isn't the kind of loneliness you might think of when you hear the word. It's not dramatic, it's not desperate, it's not even necessarily sad all the time, it's just quiet. A deep reflective quiet that settles into your home, your routines, and sometimes your heart. You might find yourself reminiscing more often. You sit by the window and remember the days when the phone rang constantly, or when the house was filled with the sounds of grandchildren playing. You might smile at those memories, and you might also feel a little ache. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. What many people don't say out loud is that this shift in connection feels personal. It can feel like a slow fading of your place in the world, not because you've done anything wrong, but because the world has moved on in ways that no longer include you as often as it once did. But here's the part that matters most. This doesn't mean your life is any less valuable. In fact, it might mean that what remains becomes even more important. When the noise of a big social circle quiets down, You start to see more clearly who truly matters. Staying emotionally connected, even if the group has grown smaller, is not just important, it's vital. It helps you remember who you are. It gives your days shape. It keeps your heart soft and open. You don't need to be surrounded by crowds to feel connected. You just need a few meaningful bonds. And if those people aren't calling, sometimes it's worth being the one who reaches out. Call your old friend, send the letter, join the community center group, even if it's just once a month. Ask a neighbor for a walk, start a video chat with a grandchild. Technology, though frustrating at times, can also be a lifeline. You'd be surprised how much warmth can travel through a screen, even from miles away. And if none of that feels right today, that's okay too. There's connection in memory. There's connection in storytelling. When you sit down and recall a moment from your past, your first job, a dance with your late spouse, a funny moment with your child, you're breathing life into that memory. You're keeping the bond alive. Not everything has to be spoken to be felt. This stage of life isn't about chasing what was lost. It's about recognizing what still exists. And more importantly, what can still be created. Just because your world has grown quieter doesn't mean it has grown cold. There's still room for laughter, for new experiences, for small unexpected moments of joy. A conversation with a stranger at the park, a heartfelt note from someone you thought had forgotten you, a shared laugh over coffee with someone who knows your story. And maybe most of all, there's space now for something many younger people never make time for. True reflection. You have lived through decades, you've survived loss, celebrated love, endured change, and gained wisdom that few others truly understand. Now, in the peace of your own company, you get to sit with that truth. You get to honor it. Yes, the social world changes, it shrinks, but it also sharpens. What's left becomes clearer, deeper, more authentic. You stop pretending. You say what you mean. You cherish what remains. So don't let the quiet frighten you. Let it guide you. Let it help you reconnect with your memories, with your values, with the people who still walk this path with you, however near or far they may be. You may not be at the center of the social whirlwind anymore, but you are still a part of this world. And your presence, your voice, and your story still matter. Perhaps now more than ever. Reality 2. When small health issues become big warning. There comes a moment, usually somewhere in your late 70s or early 80s, when you realize something has shifted. Not just the way you walk or how you get out of a chair, but the way your body responds to the little things. Things that used to be brushed off with a shrug now demand your full attention. A simple cold no longer clears up in a couple of days. It lingers, makes your chest feel heavy, and drains your energy for a week or more. A small bruise takes its sweet time to fade, weeks instead of days. And each time you bump into something, you're more cautious than before. It might start with a stumble, a moment where your foot catches the edge of a rug. Once upon a time you would have caught yourself and kept going. Now that same stumble might land you in bed for a week, or worse, lead to a fractured bone or a stay at the hospital. It's not that your body isn't strong, it's that its ability to recover has changed. What used to be a minor inconvenience can now be the thing that puts everything else on hold. This reality is hard to face, especially for those who have always been active and independent. There's a quiet frustration that builds when your body begins to feel unpredictable. You start to wonder, why can't I bounce back the way I used to? Why does everything take longer now? It's not just about being older, it's about the hidden ways aging affects your resilience. Your body is no longer working in the background without your input. It now needs you to notice, to respond, to care. Something as small as skipping a meal or forgetting to drink water can throw your whole system out of rhythm. You may find that your energy drains quicker, your balance is a little shakier, and your sleep doesn't restore you the way it once did. These aren't failures, they're signals. The emotional impact of this shift is just as real as the physical one. When you've spent your life relying on your body to show up and carry you through, it can feel like a betrayal when it doesn't. That sense of control, of confidence in how you move and function, starts to weaken. And with that comes uncertainty, not just in movement, but in mindset. It's easy to grow discouraged, to feel like your world is slowly shrinking, because your body can no longer keep up with your spirit. But here's the thing, this isn't the end of your strength. It's the beginning of a new kind of relationship with yourself, one that is rooted not in what your body used to do automatically, but in how you care for it now, day by day, moment by moment. That care begins with attention, Notice how you feel after you pay attention to how hydrated you are. Track your sleep. These may sound like small acts, but they are the foundation of staying strong. When you listen to your body's new signals, you start to learn its new rhythm. You learn when it needs rest, when it needs movement, when it needs compassion. Because yes, self-compassion is now one of the most powerful tools you have. There's no prize for pushing through pain, no glory in pretending that everything is fine. Real strength lies in being honest with yourself. If you need more rest, take it. If you need help, ask for it. If your body needs time, give it time. Too often, older adults are told that these changes are just part of getting old, and they're expected to accept it without question. But you don't have to accept decline as your only path. What you can do is adapt, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You've lived long enough to know that flexibility, not just physical but emotional, is a sign of strength, not weakness. Adaptation means learning new ways to support your health. Maybe it's using a cane not because you're fragile, but because it gives you freedom. Maybe it's choosing softer workouts that don't strain your joints. Or maybe it's something as simple as sitting down while you put on your socks. These changes aren't signs that you're giving up. They're signs that you're learning how to continue differently, but no less fully. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming fragile. It's about being smart. It's about recognizing that your body now has different needs, and honoring those needs with dignity and respect. When you take care of yourself in this new way, you give yourself the best chance to keep showing up for life, to keep moving, connecting, enjoying and being present. Sometimes you will feel frustrated. That's natural. Some days will feel harder than others. But even on those days, there's an opportunity to be kind to yourself, to breathe, to stretch, to remember that you've been through hard things before and come out stronger. This is no different. So what can you do right now? Start by doing small things well. Drink enough water. Keep healthy snacks on hand. Make time for gentle stretching or walks. Talk to your doctor, not just when something goes wrong, but as a partner in managing your health. Get ahead of the curve before the little things become big things. And above all, remember that healing takes time. Recovery might not be fast, but it's still possible. It just requires more patience, more planning, more presence. Your body might be changing, but you haven't lost your ability to adapt, to learn or to care for yourself with intention. That's something no age can take from you. Reality 3. When the world stops noticing you, there's something difficult to name that often happens after you reach your 80s. It's not about pain. It's not about memory. It's not even about being alone. It's the strange, quiet experience of no longer being fully seen, not ignored outright, not intentionally dismissed, but gradually, quietly, overlooked. You walk into a room, and people don't seem to register your presence like they once did. You speak, and sometimes the conversation moves on before you've finished your thought. People assume you're done. They answer for you. They move past you as if you're part of the background. At first, it's easy to brush it off. Maybe someone was distracted. Maybe they didn't hear you, but over time you begin to notice the pattern. You start to feel like your visibility is fading, not because you've changed, but because the world around you has. This isn't about personal rejection. It's not that people don't care. It's more about the culture. We live in a society that celebrates youth, fast movement, fresh faces, new ideas. The older you get, the more invisible you start to feel in spaces where speed, noise and novelty take center stage. And it hurts, not because you need attention, not because you crave the spotlight, but because you know you still have something to offer. You have stories, you have insights. You've lived through more than most people can imagine. You've watched the world change, adapted through heartbreak and celebration, grown through every phase of life. And now, suddenly, it feels like none of that matters to those around you. You might begin to doubt yourself. You may start to speak less, to withdraw just a little more each time your voice gets brushed aside. That's the danger. It becomes tempting to step back, to stay quiet, to let others take over. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's resignation. And the truth is, your voice still matters deeply, especially now. This stage of life is filled with wisdom. You have a perspective no one else can give. You understand patience. You understand change. You know what it means to lose and still get up the next day. And those lessons are not only relevant, they're essential. Younger generations need to hear them. Families need to hear them. Communities need to make space for them. But here's the thing. The world won't always know how to ask. So you may need to offer your story, even if no one requests. You may need to keep speaking, even when it takes a few tries to be heard. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in strength. Start by sharing. Share the story of how you met your spouse. Talk about the time you failed and what it taught you. Explain how you handled loss, how you held on to hope, how you found joy in the smallest things. These aren't just personal memories. They're guiding lights for others. You don't need a stage or a microphone. Share over coffee with a neighbor. Speak during dinner with your grandchild. Write your memories in a journal, or record your voice for someone to listen to someday. Your presence matters, even if the room doesn't turn when you walk in, even if people forget to ask for your opinion. Don't let that convince you to dim your light, because here's the truth. Being seen is not just about how others treat you. It's also about how you carry yourself. Stand tall, look people in the eye, speak when you have something to say, and when they finally pause to listen, let them hear not just your words but your conviction. If someone overlooks you, let your kindness be louder than their indifference. If they interrupt, wait then finish anyway. And if they never truly notice, speak anyway. For your own dignity, your own joy, because part of growing older with grace is not needing everyone to understand your worth. You already know it, you've earned it. This chapter is not about disappearing. It's about becoming more intentional, more grounded, more real. And those who take the time to see you, really see you, will find the depth that no youth can fake. There will always be people who rush past, who are too distracted to listen, but there will also be those, maybe a few, maybe just one, who sit beside you, who lean in, who want to know more. They are the ones who count. Speak for them, and speak for yourself. This is your life, your legacy, your space in the world. So when the world forgets to look your way, remind it gently, but clearly, that you are still here, and that your presence is not only valuable, but deeply necessary. Because in a world that moves too fast, the quiet voice of experience might be the only thing that reminds us all to slow down and pay attention to what truly matters. Reality 4. When everyday life grows smaller, there's a moment that often comes quietly in your 80s. It's not marked by a single event or sudden shift. Instead, it shows up little by little, almost without notice at first. The world that once felt big, familiar, and full of motion begins to feel smaller. You might find yourself going out less, not because you don't want to, but because things take more effort now. The grocery store feels farther. That favorite coffee shop you used to visit has closed. A friend who once picked you up for lunch can no longer drive. Another friend may have moved, or is simply no longer around. Familiar faces disappear from your neighborhood. Even the energy it takes to step outside can feel different than it used to. This isn't something most people talk about. It's not the kind of grief that comes with one sharp moment of loss. It's something softer, slower, a gentle unraveling of routine. One day your walk gets a little shorter. One week you skip church or book club because you're tired. Then you realize it's been months since you visited your favorite park, or since someone dropped by without calling first. Your world hasn't fallen apart. It has simply changed shape. At first, this shrinking of daily life might seem like nothing at all. You fill your time with small tasks. You water the plants, you watch the news, you read, you might even enjoy the calm. But over time, a quiet sadness can start to settle in. Not because you're unhappy, but because the familiar has become unfamiliar. The routines that gave your days structure have faded. It can feel like the world is moving on without you. This kind of change brings a unique kind of grief. A grief not born from a single loss, but from the slow fading of what once was. A favorite restaurant closing its doors, a walking path overgrown, a neighbor's porch that used to have laughter now standing quiet. These small changes pile up, and even if no one else notices them, you do. You may start to ask yourself, where did everyone go? Why does everything feel so still? The truth is, nothing is wrong with you. This is part of the journey of aging. The world around us shifts, whether we're ready for it or not. And as we grow older, we often find ourselves having to let go, not of life, but of the life we once knew. But here's where the beauty still lives. While the outer world may feel like it's shrinking, there's still space for growth on the inside. Your connections, your voice, your ability to create meaning are still very much alive. This is the time to build a new kind of life, one that doesn't rely on going out as often or being in a room full of people, one that values depth over speed and presence over productivity. Start by reaching out in ways that are still within your grasp. Make that phone call, write that letter, set up a video chat with a friend or grandchild. Technology may feel awkward at first, but it can be a lifeline to laughter, to connection, to feeling seen. You can also explore memory as a powerful form of connection. Share your stories, reflect on your journey, write down what you've lived through. These memories are not just personal, they are bridges to others. They remind you of who you are and what still matters. When you tell your story, you breathe life into the past and offer meaning to the present. And while you may not feel like going far, even a small step outside can make a difference. Sit on the porch, walk to the end of the street, notice the sky, the trees, the people walking by. You don't need grand adventures for your world to feel rich. Sometimes, it's the smallest moments that carry the most peace. If your world has changed, it's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to grieve it, but don't stop there. From within that stillness, something new can grow. A deeper appreciation for quiet mornings, a closer bond with the one person who still calls you every week, a rediscovery of your inner world, where meaning isn't based on how far you go, but on how present you are with what is right in front of you. There will still be days when you miss the way things were. That is natural. You're not wrong for feeling that way, but try not to let that longing keep you from seeing the beauty of today. Because even though your calendar may be less full and your schedule more flexible, your life is not over. It's simply changing, and that change can still hold joy. This season of life asks for a gentler kind of courage, not the kind that runs ahead, but the kind that stays steady, the kind that finds new ways to connect, the kind that refuses to disappear quietly. You may not be in the middle of the crowd anymore, but you are still in the story. You are still here, still worthy of being seen, heard, and included. So build the life that fits you now. One conversation, one memory, one deep breath at a time. Let your days be full in a new way, with intention, with grace, with meaning that does not depend on how far you go, but how deeply you feel. And if your world has grown smaller, know this, it can still grow deeper. Reality 5. When your own body stops feeling reliable. One of the hardest parts of aging doesn't always come with pain. It doesn't come with a warning either. It shows up on a regular morning, in small ways that feel strangely out of place. One day you wake up feeling steady, clear-minded, ready to take on your day. The next, you're slower, maybe a little foggy. Your hands feel clumsy, your knees ache. You might get dizzy while doing something as simple as brushing your teeth. This unpredictability becomes one of the most frustrating parts of life after 80. It's not just about stiffness or fatigue. It's about not knowing which version of your body will show up that day. Will you feel strong or fragile? Will your legs carry you across the room with confidence? Or will you need to pause and hold on to the furniture as you go? The physical symptoms are not always the most painful part. It's the feeling of betrayal. This body, the one you've lived in your entire life, the one you've trusted through work, love, raising children, celebrating holidays, and walking down hospital hallways, it suddenly feels unfamiliar. And that unfamiliarity leads to something deeper. Doubt. You start to second-guess yourself. Should I take that walk today? Can I still drive to the store? Or will I get tired halfway through the trip? Is it safe to go up and down those stairs? You pause more often. You plan more carefully. Not because you're afraid, but because you've learned that your body can change without notice. This constant unpredictability begins to wear down your confidence. It can make you feel smaller, less secure. Even the strongest people find themselves facing moments of hesitation they never expected. You may feel like you've lost something, but what you've actually lost is consistency. And that's a loss that often goes unspoken. People don't talk enough about the psychological weight of not being able to count on your own physical self. It can make you feel isolated, not because you're physically alone, but because no one else can feel what you're feeling inside your own body. But here is the truth that matters. You are not powerless. You still have choices.
You still have strength, even if it looks different now. What your body needs most in this chapter of life is not more force, but more attention, more patience, more kindness. Start by learning how to listen to your body differently. Notice when it needs rest. Pay attention to the foods that give you energy and the ones that drain you. Watch how you feel after a short walk, a nap, or a conversation. Your body is still speaking to you, but it speaks in a new language now. One of subtle signs and gentle nudges. Adaptability becomes your new superpower. It is not weakness to change your routines. It is wisdom. If walking in the morning no longer feels right, try moving in the afternoon. If big grocery trips are too much, break them into smaller ones. If bending down to pick something up is difficult, use a grabber or ask for help. These adjustments are not signs that you are losing. They are signs that you are evolving. Part of regaining confidence comes from preparing for the unpredictability, rather than fearing it. Keep a walking stick nearby if it gives you balance. Make a checklist of what you need each day, so you don't forget. Keep your doctor in the loop, not just when something goes wrong, but as a partner in staying well. Don't wait for exhaustion to tell you to slow down. Don't let a fall remind you to be careful. Lead with awareness, move with intention, rest with purpose, and more than anything, speak to yourself kindly. When your hands shake, or your knees buckle, or your words come out slower than usual, resist the urge to feel frustrated. That frustration may be natural, but it doesn't have to define the moment. Instead, offer yourself the same patience you would offer a child or a dear friend. You deserve that softness, because you haven't failed. You're simply living in a new phase of life, one that asks more of your heart than your muscles, more of your awareness than your speed, and more of your acceptance than your control. This is where grace comes in. Real grace, not the polished kind, but the kind that shows up in small daily choices, the kind that allows you to sit when you need to, the kind that says, I'm doing my best today, even when that best looks different than it used to. You are still you, the person who laughed, worked, danced, traveled, overcame, built a family, helped others, and made it through more than you probably ever gave yourself credit for. That person still lives in this body, a body that may wobble, but still stands, a body that may tire but still moves, a body that with your help can continue to carry you forward. So don't give up on your body. Partner with it, learn its new rhythms, give it what it needs, and celebrate it. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Each day may bring something unexpected, but you, with your strength, wisdom and resilience, are still capable of showing up, and that is more than enough.
Final message: the power of awareness after 80. If you've made it this far, you know we haven't sugarcoated anything. The truths of life after 80 are real. They're not always easy. Some days are slower, quieter, heavier. Some moments catch you off guard and make you wonder when things began to shift. But here's something we believe deeply. Facing these realities doesn't have to feel like defeat. In fact, there's something freeing about naming what you're going through. When you can say out loud, yes, life feels different now, you're no longer carrying the weight in silence. That kind of honesty gives you back a sense of control, because once you see what's changing, you can begin to respond to it. You can make choices. You can adjust with intention. You can give yourself the care, space, and compassion you deserve. Growing older might bring limits, but it also brings clarity. You begin to see what really matters. You learn to let go of pressure and focus on presence. You value peace over performance, connection over noise, quality over quantity, and most of all, you remember who you are. You are not less because the world around you moves differently. You are not forgotten because fewer people come around. You are not invisible because your steps have slowed. You are a living, breathing story, a whole life full of strength, laughter, sorrow, love, and growth. This chapter is not the end. It's simply another season, one where the pace may be slower, but the meaning runs deeper. A season where your wisdom becomes your loudest voice, where your gentleness becomes your strength, where your presence is still a gift to those who take the time to see it. So don't walk through this part of life in silence. Share what you're feeling. Talk to someone. Leave a comment. Write a letter. Call an old friend. When you speak your truth, you might be the very voice someone else needs to hear. None of us should have to go through this alone. The world may not always stop to ask what life feels like at 80, but we're asking, and we're listening. So here's what we'll leave you with. Growing older is not about losing your worth. It's about gaining perspective. And when you live with that kind of awareness, when you honor where you are without shame or apology, you give others permission to do the same. That is your power, that is your gift, and we are grateful you're here.